The first time I died, my lanyard badge was hanging from someone else's neck. That was the image shown in court. Grainy security footage of a hooded figure entering the North Gallery with my name flashing beneath her chin. Mara Quinn, student archivist. Access level blue. The timestamp placed me inside the vault 9 minutes before the Solen Codex vanished and 6 minutes before the service elevator dropped 3 floors with my best friend inside it. I told them the figure was not me. I told them Helena Rusk had taken my badge beside the donor staircase. I told them she had said the gold lanyard looked ugly in photographs and ordered me to remove it fast. The school produced a signed incident report saying I had never surrendered my credential. The badge log said I entered the gallery. The camera showed my name. The original codex was found beneath my bed. Every system agreed with every person who outranked me. I was convicted of theft, sabotage, and the death of June Park. I spent 8 years watching Bellwether Academy sell memorial scholarships in her name, while the people who killed her chaired the ceremonies. I died in a prison medical wing at 27 after an untreated infection spread into my blood. When I opened my eyes again, the lanyard was still around my neck. The Founders Gala glittered around me. Crystal chandeliers shone across the marble atrium of Bellwether's private museum. Waiters moved between donors holding silver trays. A string quartet played beneath the portrait of the Academy's first headmaster. The old clock above the North Gallery doors read 8:41 p.m. 23 minutes before the codex disappeared. 19 minutes before the service elevator failed. And Helena Rusk stood in front of me holding a portable card reader. "Remove it fast," she said. My breath stopped. Helena looked exactly as she had on the night that destroyed my first life. Black silk dress beneath a tailored school blazer. Diamond studs. Silver hair swept into a smooth knot. Director of advancement, board secretary, and the woman every scholarship student was trained to thank before speaking. Her card reader glowed green in one hand. A blank gold lanyard waited in the other. I touched my badge. Mara Quinn, student archivist. Blue access. A thin holographic strip ran across the bottom edge. The badge looked ordinary, but tonight every gala worker wore one because the museum insurance policy required location logging near restricted collections. The badges used anti-passback security. One identity could not enter 2 zones at the same time. In my first life, Helena told me to remove mine because student badges looked unprofessional in donor photographs. She clipped a blank gold ribbon around my neck, took my real badge, and smiled. I felt important. This time, I stepped back. "I'm keeping it on." Helena's smile did not move. "The chairman is waiting for the scholarship portrait. Then he can be photographed with my badge." "The lanyard clashes with your dress." "It is the lanyard the museum issued." Her eyes flicked toward the donors behind me. "Mara, do not delay a $2 million pledge over plastic." Urgency. Money. Embarrassment. 3 tools that had opened every door for her in my first life. I kept my hand over the badge. "Why do you need the reader?" "To deactivate your access during the portrait." "Why?" "You'll be entering the donor balcony." My badge already allows the balcony. The system was updated. "Show me." Her smile thinned. "There is no time." That sentence had ended more lives than any alarm. I held the badge toward the reader without removing it. "Scan it while I'm wearing it." The first crack appeared in her expression. "Mara, if it only needs deactivation, scan it." The nearest volunteer, Sarah Lynn, paused beside a table of catalogs. She was 16, observant, and incapable of pretending not to hear conflict. In my first life, Sarah testified that Helena and I had spoken, but said she could not remember whether I handed anything over. The school called her uncertain. She spent years believing her uncertainty helped convict me. This time, I made the moment visible. "Ms. Rusk wants to deactivate my badge before the portrait," I said. "Can you witness the scan?" Helena's voice sharpened. "That is unnecessary." Sarah looked from her to me. "The handbook says restricted credentials should be changed with a second volunteer present."
Of course it did.
Bellwether produced excellent handbooks. Helena lifted the reader.
Finet.
I held the badge flat against my chest. She pressed the reader to it. The device beeped once. Then flashed red. Credential conflict. Helena went still. The reader beeped again. Duplicate, identity active. Current secondary location, North Gallery Service Corridor. Sarah read the screen aloud. The quartet continued playing. Donors continued laughing. Yet the entire atrium seemed to narrow around Helena's hand. My authentic badge remained on my chest. A duplicate bearing my identity was already inside the restricted corridor. Helena pressed cancel. The reader refused. Security collision lock. She tried to power it off. The screen stayed red. The portable readers stored credential collisions locally and automatically sent them to museum security once connected to the Gala network. A duplicate could be explained as an administrative error. A collision occurring while the original holder stood before witnesses was harder. I looked at Helena. Who is wearing my other badge? Her voice cracked hard. Take yours off. Sarah's head lifted. Helena heard herself. Her composure returned too late. She lowered the reader and spoke quietly. There is a cloning fault in tonight's batch. Give me the badge so I can correct it before security locks the wing. If it is a fault, security should see both. Mara, someone may be using your identity. I know. Then remove the badge. So, only the duplicate remains active? Her eyes changed. That was the answer. In my first life, the duplicate became the only credential tied to my name because Helena deactivated the original. The system did not show two Maras. It showed one, moving exactly where the conspirators needed me to appear. This time, two versions existed at once. The card reader began vibrating. Collision escalation in 30 seconds. Helena reached for my lanyard. I caught her wrist. Sarah stepped backward, lifted her phone, and started recording. The red reader counted down. 29, 28, 27. Helena looked toward the donor staircase. A man in a midnight blue tuxedo stood beneath it watching us. Chairman Everett Vale, head of the Bellwether Trust. In my first life, he sat behind the prosecutor and never looked at me once. He touched his cuff. Helena's earpiece flashed. She whispered, "Not now." I heard him through the tiny speaker. Remove the original. Sarah's phone captured it. Helena tore her wrist free. The reader reached 0. A low alarm sounded beneath the music. Every restricted door in the museum locked. The North Gallery lights shifted from gold to white. Security shutters descended over the exterior windows. The quartet stopped mid-measure. Donors turned toward the sound. The reader displayed. Duplicate credential incident. Primary holder verified by proximity. Secondary holder contained. Helena stared. Primary holder. Me. The system had decided which badge was authentic because mine remained continuously connected to the atrium beacon. The duplicate had appeared suddenly inside a restricted zone. A security officer approached. His name was Tomas Reed, Museum Operations Chief. In my first life, he testified that badge logs were infallible. He had never known a second credential existed. Now he looked directly at the red screen. What happened? Helena answered first. A student badge duplication fault. Tomas took the reader. Why were you attempting deactivation? Portrait access. I said. She told me to remove it. The device says another badge with my identity is in the North Gallery Service Corridor. Tomas looked at Sarah. She held up her recording phone. I witnessed the scan. Helena's smile returned. A child's video is not necessary. Tomas replied. It is now. Chairman Vale crossed the atrium. Keep the gala moving. Resolve this quietly. Tomas did not salute, bow, or apologize. The North Gallery is in collision lockdown. Override it. I need to locate the secondary credential first. Vale's expression cooled. The codex presentation begins in 18 minutes. Then we should confirm no unauthorized person is near it. A small answer. A large interruption. Authority expected the security officer to protect the schedule. He chose the object. Vale turned to Helena. Come with me. Tomas said, no one involved in the credential event leaves until I document statements. The chairman stared at him. The service elevator bell rang somewhere beyond the gallery. My heart slammed against my ribs. In the first life, June entered that elevator at 8:56 because Helena sent her to retrieve the codex presentation box from basement conservation. At 9 o'clock, the cables failed. The clock read 8:47. I had 9 minutes. Where is June Park? Sarah looked around. She was checking the gallery labels. Helena said, "She is not relevant. She is the student photo archivist assigned to the North Gallery." Tomas touched his radio. "Control, locate June Park." Static. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. The Gala network alarm worked. The radio channel did not. My body remembered the service elevator falling. I turned toward the North Gallery. Helena blocked me. "You are contained here. My friend is inside the collision zone. No one enters. The duplicate is wearing my identity. That is exactly why you stay." Tomas examined his radio. Channel 4 is dead. Sarah checked her phone. The museum network is gone too. Chairman Vale spoke with perfect irritation. "The building is overloaded." "No," I said. "Someone disabled communications before the collision alarm." He looked at me for the first time, not as a student, as a problem that had identified itself. The card reader flashed a map. The duplicate badge moved through the service corridor toward the conservation lift. The service elevator. I held my authentic badge to the reader. "Can this track the secondary?" Tomas nodded. "During collision lockdown. Then follow it." Helena stepped between us. "The student does not enter a security response." "She does if her credential is the comparison source," Tomas said. The reader required the authentic badge nearby to maintain collision tracking. If I removed mine, the system would lose the distinction. Helena had wanted exactly that. Tomas motioned to 2 officers. Sarah remained near me with her camera. Chairman Vale tried to call someone from his phone and discovered no signal. We crossed the atrium toward the North Gallery. Donors whispered. Cameras turned. The Academy's greatest fear had always been public uncertainty. Not guilt, not danger. Questions. The reader guided us through the staff corridor. White walls, brass signs, locked doors. The duplicate badge moved slowly ahead. At the first junction, the map showed it turning left toward the conservation lift. I remembered Helena's instruction from the first life. June, bring the presentation box through the service elevator. The donor stairs are crowded. I ran. Tomas shouted, but followed. The lift doors stood open. No car waited behind them. A dark shaft dropped below. The safety gate had been removed. June's camera bag lay on the floor. I stopped so hard Sarah collided with me. June. A muffled sound came from the maintenance alcove beside the shaft. Tomas forced the door. June was inside, wrists bound with archival tape, mouth covered, still wearing her own badge.
Alive.
I tore the tape from her mouth. She gasped. Someone in your badge. Who? Black coat. Face covered. She took the codex crate. The duplicate badge on the reader moved downward. Not through the lift. Through the old book transfer shaft running beside it. The service elevator had been sabotaged as a distraction. In my first life, June died because she entered the shaft lift while the thief used the hidden transfer platform. This time, she had been tied before Helena could send her down. The thief had adapted. June looked at me. Why are you crying? You're alive. What? Nothing. Tomas called for medical support. The radio remained dead. Sarah filmed the open lift shaft, the missing gate, and June's restraints. Chairman Vale arrived behind us, breathing hard. Turn that camera off. Sarah held it tighter. Tomas pointed to the broken lift controls. This is now a crime scene, Vale said. You do not know that. June lifted her bound wrists.
Ida.
The reader beeped. Secondary credential entered lower archive. A floor plan appeared. The lower archive held the Solen Codex before gala presentation. No donor knew. The object displayed upstairs was a facsimile until the ceremonial reveal. The duplicate identity was not approaching the codex. It had already reached it. Tomas unlocked the emergency stairs using his mechanical key. The digital readers refused everyone except my badge because collision mode placed my identity at the center of the incident. I led. Helena hated that. She followed anyway. The lower archives smelled of stone, dust, and cold air. Emergency lights illuminated rows of compact shelving. The reader showed the duplicate 10 meters ahead. We heard wheels. A transfer cart rolled around the corner by itself. On it sat the codex crate. Empty. A black lanyard badge lay on top. My name glowed across it. Mara Quinn. The duplicate. Tomas reached for it. I said, "Don't." The badge's rear casing bulged. A tiny transmitter had been taped beneath it.
Sarah zoomed in.
June whispered, "That is not a normal clone." The transmitter sent location data, even without network access. Someone wanted the badge found with the empty crate. The plan was still framing me. Only now the real Mara stood beside the fake one. Tomas photographed everything. Helena remained near the doorway, too near the exit. The card reader suddenly beeped green. Collision resolved. The duplicate badge went dark. Someone had remotely killed it. Tomas's radio crackled back to life at the same moment. Control voices flooded the channel. North Gallery status. Service lift alarm. Codex crate moved. Communications had been disabled only while the duplicate needed protection. Now the thief believed the job complete. I looked at Helena. Who controls the badge server? Security. Tomas shook his head. Credential administration is advancement tonight. All eyes moved to her. She laughed once. I supervise guest lists, not code. Sarah said, "Your reader recognized the duplicate before security did." Helena's gaze sharpened. The red device in Tomas's hand displayed its local event log. Administrator override attempt. User H. Rusk. Time 2041. Before I refused, she had already attempted to deactivate my identity. The card reader had failed because the duplicate was active. Her own device recorded the sequence. Helena's face changed again. This time, she stopped pretending. She stepped backward through the archive door and slammed it. The lock engaged. We were sealed inside. Chairman Vale remained outside with her. Tomas reached for his mechanical key. The cylinder had been filled with hardening resin. The card reader displayed. Fire isolation active.
No smoke.
No heat. A false emergency state. The compact shelves began moving. Automatic fire separation. Rows slid together to create sealed compartments. June shouted. If we remained between units, the moving shelves could crush us. Tomas hit the stop switch. Nothing. I remembered the museum orientation. Every compact archive system had a floor-level pressure strip. Weight in the aisle should stop motion. The system ignored us. Safety disabled. Sarah threw her camera bag onto the track. The shelves pushed it aside. June looked up. Manual crank. At the end of each row, a recessed crank allowed movement during power failure.
We ran.
Tomas inserted the crank and turned against the motor. The shelves slowed. Not stopped. I grabbed another handle. June joined despite her bruised wrists. Sarah braced her feet. 4 people against machinery. The gap narrowed. The motor screamed. Then power cut. The shelves stopped with less than a meter between them. Darkness. Breathing. The card reader screen remained lit. A message appeared. Primary badge distress mode. A hidden sensor inside my lanyard had detected sustained pressure and loss of movement. The authentic badge transmitted an emergency burst through an independent low-frequency beacon. Helena had killed the Gala network. She had not killed the badge's distress channel. Outside, a siren began. Not the museum alarm. Municipal emergency response. The badge had called beyond bellwether. Tomas laughed breathlessly. Keep that thing on. I planned to. Firefighters breached the archive door 7 minutes later. Police detained Helena in the loading dock. Chairman Vale had disappeared. The codex remained missing. The empty crate, duplicate badge, jammed reader log, disabled lift, tied student, resin-filled lock, and moving shelves created more evidence than the board could explain away. Still, Bellwether tried. The first public statement called it an attempted theft by an unknown external actor using cloned student credentials. External. Unknown. They omitted Helena's arrest. They omitted Vale's disappearance. They omitted that advancement controlled the badge server. My name appeared anyway. A duplicate credential associated with student archivist Mara Quinn was recovered near the empty crate.
Associated with.
A phrase designed to anchor the story before facts matured. I published one sentence through Sarah's video account. My authentic badge remained on my body continuously. Helena Rusk's card reader recorded a failed attempt to deactivate it while a duplicate badge using my identity was active inside the North Gallery. Sequence.
No speculation.
The video reached 1 million views overnight. Bellwether's statement became the correction, not the first story. Detective Sanaa Ortiz led the investigation. She was methodical, unimpressed by school prestige, and willing to say, "I do not know," in front of cameras. During my first interview, she asked how I knew June was in danger. I told her the truth. Another life. Another badge. Another elevator. Another death. Ortiz did not laugh. I cannot use rebirth as evidence. I know. But your memory may identify facts we can test. That is all I need. Memory created questions. Evidence answered them. The first question was the Solen Codex. The Academy described it as a 12th century devotional manuscript donated by the Solen family. Its value came from rarity, illumination, and provenance. That was incomplete. My mother, Elena Quinn, had worked as a junior conservator at Bellwether 15 years earlier. She died in a supposed hiking accident when I was 6. Before her death, she wrote one note to my grandmother. The codex is not the treasure. The sewing is. I had never understood. Investigators examined the facsimile display copy and archival photography. The original binding contained replacement stitching along the spine. My mother had documented it before her death. The sewing hid microfilm, financial ledgers, trust agreements, lists of scholarship properties transferred to private companies owned by Bellwether board members. The codex was a vault disguised as a book. The gala presentation was not simply a heist. It was an evidence extraction. The second question was why the codex appeared beneath my bed in the first life. This timeline provided the plan. The transfer cart held an empty crate and my duplicate badge. A second crate left the lower archive through the book transfer shaft into the former conservation tunnel. That tunnel connected to scholarship housing. My dormitory stood above the tunnel's final access panel. The thief could place the codex beneath my room without entering the hallway. My bed had not been the destination by chance. The building had been chosen years earlier. Scholarship students lived in the old conservation wing because donors liked calling it historic accommodation. The board liked the hidden route. The third question was June's elevator. Technicians inspected the service lift. The cables had been cut nearly through, leaving enough strands to hold an empty car, but fail under passenger weight. The maintenance log showed no defect.
A forget d'inspection Bortomaes signature.
The real inspection file existed in his email drafts, never submitted because Helena told him advancement would handle gala paperwork. Authority had converted an unfinished administrative step into murder infrastructure. Tomas admitted his mistake publicly. I should have filed the inspection myself. He was not responsible for the cut cables. His compliance created an opening. Both facts remained. The fourth question was the duplicate badge. Bellwether's vendor manufactured badges with secure chips that could not be copied through ordinary scanners. The clone used a genuine spare chip issued to the board office. Someone had not duplicated my badge. They had created a second authentic credential under my identity. The difference mattered. Security systems trusted issuer authority. Helena held it. The card reader failed because anti-passback detected 2 genuine chips with the same person record. Bellwether called it a technical flaw. It was the only feature that worked. The vendor had designed collision handling after a hospital used duplicate badges to hide staff access. Helena knew the reader might reject the overlap. That was why she needed mine removed first. My refusal did not reveal a hacker. It revealed an authorized duplicate. The fifth question was Chairman Vale. Police found his car at the private airfield. No passenger records. No border scan. His lanyard badge appeared in a rubbish bin at the gala. Removed before flight. He understood exactly what badges could prove. The Academy froze his accounts. 3 days later, a video appeared. Vale sat in a dark room and called Helena a rogue employee. He said the codex contained false financial claims planted by my mother after professional misconduct. He named her a dead conservator, an easy target. Then he named me. Her unstable daughter continued the obsession. The strategy was familiar. Inherited instability. Family shame. Narrative before evidence. I did not respond emotionally. Ortiz released the card reader log under court order. The public saw Helena's failed deactivation attempt. Sarah released the audio of Vale saying, "Remove the original." His voice. His instruction. The phrase destroyed the rogue employee defense. He had directed the badge swap. The sixth question involved the black-coated thief. June remembered one detail. A perfume smelling of cedar and orange peel. Helena wore rose.
Vale vore inocente.
Sarah recognized it from the gala's guest gift bags, which contained custom fragrance for major donors. Only 12 people received it. Security footage showed 11 inside the atrium during the theft. The 12th was Professor Celia Ward, Bellwether's chief archivist. My mother's former supervisor. Celia had testified at the inquest that Elena Quinn was careless, emotionally erratic, and removed documents without authorization. She had written the version of my mother that survived. Police searched her home. Empty. Her badge last accessed the North Gallery Service corridor 12 minutes before the collision. Not under her name.
Une mine.
The duplicate chip had been assigned to her biometric profile behind the visible Mara record. The system recorded her hand temperature and gait signature. Hidden metadata. Even when the name lied, the body left differences. Celia was arrested at a ferry terminal carrying a conservation case. Inside was not the codex. It contained the microfilm removed from the binding. The original manuscript remained missing. She had separated evidence from object. The board needed the film destroyed. The codex could be recovered later and declared unharmed. Celia denied knowing about the elevator. Denied Helena's plan. Admitted taking the microfilm. Her motive was not money. My work was built on the Solène collection, she said. If the trust fraud became public, every publication, exhibition, and promotion tied to it would be contaminated. Career preservation. Not grand conspiracy. Not ideology. A life built on a false foundation. She chose to preserve the life. The seventh question was my mother. Celia's records contained old conservation reports. Elena had discovered the microfilm accidentally when repairing the binding. She copied several frames and reported the issue to the board. Vale's father chaired it then. The report disappeared. Elena lost her position for alleged mishandling. 6 weeks later, she died on a Bellwether-sponsored hiking retreat. The trail railing failed. Maintenance photographs showed bolts deliberately loosened. No criminal case had been opened. The death was reclassified as suspicious. I sat with the report for hours. Rebirth had returned me to one gala night. The conspiracy began before I understood my own name. My badge said Mara Quinn. The duplicate tried to turn that name into a route for someone else. My mother's records had suffered the same thing. Her name remained. Her actions were rewritten. The investigation corrected both. The eighth question was why June's blood appeared on the codex beneath my bed in the first life. The current plan files provided an answer. Helena's laptop contained a folder titled Quinn Contingency. Photographs of my dormitory. The tunnel panel. A staged disciplinary memo. A pre-written statement claiming June confronted me after discovering theft. A medical vial labeled J. Park, School Physical. Bellwether's health service stored blood samples for athletic screening. The board planned to apply June's blood to the codex after her death. Biological trace transformed the object into a story. No witness needed. The first life's evidence had been assembled before the crime. In this life, the plan became evidence of intent. The ninth question was who cut the lift cables. Helena's messages referenced a contractor called H8. The gala maintenance roster listed no H8. Tomas recognized the code. Historic Wing 8. Scholarship Housing Maintenance. The contractor was Marino, not me. A man named Owen Rusk, Helena's younger brother. He serviced lifts under another company name. Police found him in a warehouse containing duplicate lanyards, blank chips, school uniforms, and tunnel maps. He confessed to cable sabotage but claimed Helena promised the lift would remain empty. She had planned June's trip. He had chosen not to ask. Small part. Large consequence. The conspiracy was not one mastermind. Vale directed removal. Helena controlled credentials. Celia extracted film. Owen prepared infrastructure. Health staff supplied samples. Board lawyers prepared statements. Each person treated her part as separate. Together, they built a complete crime. The 10th question was the missing codex. Celia swore she left it inside the conservation tunnel after removing the film. Police searched. Nothing. Then Sarah reviewed her gala footage. During the atrium lockdown, a donor in a wheelchair left through the accessible cloakroom route. A museum attendant pushed him. The chair's footrest carried a long rectangular case beneath a velvet blanket. The donor was Lord Adrian Bell, a retired judge and bellwether trustee. He had publicly demanded transparency after the collision. He left with the manuscript. Police searched his estate. The codex lay inside a humidity-controlled cabinet behind his law library. He claimed he removed it for safekeeping after sensing board misconduct. No call to police. No chain of custody. No explanation for the prepared cabinet. His safe also contained property deeds referenced on the microfilm. He was part of the trust network. The board's ethical elder held the physical asset. Complex institutions often keep one respected person available to restore confidence. Sometimes respect is the final disguise. Bell was arrested. The original codex returned. Conservators compared it with my mother's photographs. A narrow strip of sewing remained missing. The microfilm fit. The object and evidence reunited under independent custody. The gala had been designed to separate them forever. My lanyard badge did the opposite. It connected location, time, and identity long enough for every piece to remain comparable. The criminal cases unfolded over 3 years. Helena pleaded not guilty. Celia accepted a partial plea. Owen cooperated. Bell blamed Vale. Vale remained missing. The academy entered public administration. Scholarship properties returned to the trust. Families who had paid rent to companies secretly owned by trustees received compensation. Bellwether's beautiful donor history became a financial map. Every named hall was reviewed. Some names removed. I opposed blank removal without context. Do not make the buildings innocent by deleting the people. The final policy retained plaques explaining the transfers, conflicts, and repairs. History became uncomfortable.
Good.
Comfort had protected fraud. The batch collision became the prosecution's opening exhibit. Helena's lawyer called it a software error. The vendor's engineer testified. The system did not fail. The portable reader refused to deactivate an identity, while a second authorized credential using that identity remained active elsewhere. What does that prove? That Ms. Rusk attempted to remove the original holder from the record, while another holder used her name. The courtroom went quiet. Remove the original. The phrase existed in Vale's audio and the reader's logic. Human instruction. Machine conflict. Same plan. Helena's defense argued the duplicate was created for gala contingency. If a student lost her badge, staff needed replacement access. Possible. Then the issue became timing. Why activate the duplicate before mine was lost? Why assign Celia's biometric profile? Why direct me to remove mine? Why move the crate? Why disable radios? Why prepare a dormitory route? Contingency became conspiracy through sequence.
Sera testified.
She was still a minor when the gala occurred. The defense called her attention-seeking because she uploaded the video publicly. She answered, I uploaded it after the school published a statement connecting Mara to the duplicate and omitting Helena's reader. Did you want views? Yes. The honesty surprised the lawyer. Then you benefited. Yes. Does that make your video more reliable?
No.
The metadata does. Motives can mix. Evidence remains testable. Sarah's testimony became a media literacy lesson nationally. A witness can enjoy attention and still record truth. A person can profit and still provide evidence. Perfect character is not required. Verification is. June testified about the elevator. Her voice shook. The defense asked why she could not identify Celia's face. I was hooded. Then you cannot know it was her. I know the duplicate badge used Mara's name, the attacker smelled like donor fragrance, and the person knew the conservation shaft. Those are assumptions. They are observations. Investigators made the identification. Sequence again. She did not overclaim. Her credibility strengthened. Celia pleaded guilty after June testified. She admitted taking the microfilm and binding June. She denied knowing the cables were cut. Messages showed Helena told her only that June would be delayed. Celia accepted 6 years. Some called the sentence too light. Her cooperation exposed Vale's accounts. Law-balanced contribution. No result satisfied everyone. Helena was convicted of conspiracy, attempted theft, kidnapping, evidence fabrication, credential fraud, obstruction, and reckless endangerment. The court could not punish June's first death. It punished the lift sabotage that nearly killed others and the present kidnapping. Bell received a long sentence for trust fraud and possession of stolen cultural property. Owen received less after cooperation. Vale was captured 5 years later in a private clinic overseas. He had changed his name, face, and citizenship. Not his fingerprints. His trial focused on trust fraud, conspiracy, and attempted evidence destruction. He never admitted ordering my mother's death. The railing evidence remained circumstantial. A civil court later found Bellwether responsible. Her death certificate changed from accident to death associated with deliberate safety interference. Not full justice. Accurate enough to alter history. The Academy offered to name the North Gallery after Elena Quinn. I refused at first. My mother had been discredited there. Then June said, "Let the room tell what she found." The gallery became the Elena Quinn Conservation and Trust Archive. Not memorial. Function. It housed provenance records, board minutes, and public trust documents. No object could be displayed without accessible ownership history. The Solen Codex remained there. Beside it sat the removed sewing and microfilm. Visitors saw treasure and evidence together. The label began. The binding was altered to hide records. The records were then used to alter lives. I wrote that sentence. The Lanyard badge entered the National Museum of Digital Identity. Not the duplicate. Both. Mine displayed continuously active. The clone displayed with Celia's hidden biometric metadata. The failed reader sat between them. The exhibit asked, who does a name belong to when an authority can issue it twice? Students scanned replica badges. If two used the same identity, the reader flashed red and stopped.
No dramatic alarm.
A simple refusal. The exhibit explained anti-passback, issuer trust, duplicate credentials, and identity collisions. People often thought cybercrime meant outsiders breaking in. Bellwether showed insiders could create legitimate-looking access. Security had to record authority use, not only user behavior. Badge systems changed. Every replacement credential notified the holder. Duplicate activation required independent approval. Biometric mismatch alerts could not be hidden from security. Original holders retained visible records. No administrator could silently deactivate someone during a conflict. The reforms spread to hospitals, universities, laboratories, and courts. At 26, I became an investigative archivist. Not a journalist. Not a lawyer. I wanted to work where objects, records, and institutional stories met. My first case involved a labor union badge used to enter a warehouse during theft. The worker was accused because the log showed his identity. He still had his physical badge. Management called it impossible. We checked issuer records. A supervisor had created a duplicate for testing. The worker was cleared. No prison.
No gala.
A routine collision audit. That was success. At 30, June and I founded Original Holder, a nonprofit helping people challenge access records tied to duplicated credentials. The name came from Vale's instruction. Remove the original. We turned it around. Original holders gained rights. Notification. Copies. Challenge procedures. Temporary protection during investigation. No automatic suspension based on a badge log alone. The first client was a nurse accused of stealing medication. Her badge entered a pharmacy while she assisted in surgery. A duplicate training card remained active under her name. The hospital had known about the duplication. It still fired her. Original Holder recovered the issuance log. She was reinstated and compensated. The hospital changed policy.
No dramatic villain.
Administrative carelessness nearly destroyed a career. Systems can harm without conspiracy. We treated both seriously. Sarah became a documentary producer. Her work focused on student witnesses and institutional first statements. She loved attention and admitted it. She also built excellent verification teams. At 40, she produced a series called The First Version. Each episode compared an institution's initial public statement with later evidence. Not every first statement was a lie. Some were incomplete because facts were genuinely unknown. The program taught distinctions: uncertainty, strategic omission, falsehood, correction. Bellwether's first statement belonged in the strategic omission category. It named my connection and omitted Helena's. That editorial choice shaped public suspicion. Institutions began publishing uncertainty fields.
Known.
Unknown. Under investigation. Corrected. Not perfect. Better than polished certainty. June became a lift safety engineer. After surviving the sabotaged shaft, she refused to avoid elevators forever.
She studied them.
Her first major design was an independent cable integrity sensor transmitting outside building management. A facility could not silence it through the main network. The system detected deliberate cable damage in a hotel before failure. Hundreds evacuated. June called me afterward. I think I finally answered the elevator. What did it ask? Whether I would spend my life avoiding shafts or change what shafts report. Her work reminded me that trauma can become expertise. It does not have to. No survivor owes the world a reform. June chose it. That choice mattered. At 35, I made my own serious mistake. A museum guard was accused of opening a display after hours. His badge log showed access. He said he never entered. The institution asked Original Holder to review. I saw a credential collision and assumed duplication.
No duplicat existed.
Video showed the guard lent his badge to a coworker. He lied because sharing credentials violated policy. The coworker opened the case accidentally during cleaning.
No theft.
My pattern was wrong. Badge logs can lie through duplication. People can also misuse real badges. We corrected the report publicly. The guard received proportionate discipline, not criminal accusation. The lesson entered our training. Do not replace blind trust in systems with blind distrust.
Compare.
Who held the badge? Who issued copies? What did video show? What did the door record? What motive existed? Identity evidence is a chain, not a single beep. At 42, governments proposed national biometric lanyards for public examinations. The goal was to stop impersonation. I opposed mandatory, continuous tracking. Bellwether taught me badges could protect original holders. It also taught me issuer power was dangerous. Students should not surrender location data beyond the exam. We design limits. Activation only during defined periods. Automatic deletion. Candidate access to logs. Independent replacement approval. No behavioral analysis. The government adopted most. Not all. Civil rights groups remained cautious. Correctly. A safety tool can become surveillance through purpose drift. We built review dates. No permanent exceptional power. At 48, the Solen Codex became controversial again. A foreign monastery claimed Bellwether's founder acquired it through colonial coercion. The Academy argued the trust fraud investigation proved legal ownership under modern deeds. Legal ownership did not answer original acquisition. The Elena Quinn Archive opened provenance research. Records suggested the manuscript was removed during political violence. Bellwether eventually returned the codex. Donors protested. "It is part of our history." "Yes," I said, "including the history before us." The microfilm remained as evidence in the National Archive. The binding and manuscript returned together after digital copies and legal agreements. The gallery displayed an empty case with a full explanation. Not every restitution requires retaining the object. Bellwether's identity had been built around possession. Letting go became part of repair. The empty case attracted more visitors than the manuscript once did. People asked where it went. The answer opened a larger story. At 52, my mother's old supervisor records revealed one more betrayal. Celia had not written the first report calling Elena unstable. The wording came from a bored lawyer. Celia signed it.
Why?
Her promotion depended on the signature. She later repeated the story until it became hers. This did not absolve her. It changed sequence. Coercion can begin before a person becomes a perpetrator. Celia wrote from prison. I signed the sentence that erased her. Years later, I tied June because I believed protecting the archive protected the only life I had left. I kept choosing the institution that taught me my choices were small. I preserved the letter. Did not publish it immediately. June decided when to release the part about her. My mother could not choose. I released the section concerning her with family consent. The archive labeled it perpetrator reflection, not verified fact. Celia's interpretation mattered. It was not final truth. At 60, I taught archival ethics. My first lecture began with 2 badges hanging from a hook. Same name, different chips. I asked students which was authentic. They inspected holograms. Serials.
Where?
Both appeared genuine. Authenticity is not always inside the object, I said. It is an issuance, continuity, context, and control. Then I asked a second question. If an institution creates both, which holder is false? The duplicate may be physically genuine and socially fraudulent. The original may be deactivated and still represent the person. Technical validity and rightful identity can diverge. This principle helped refugees whose governments canceled passports, workers whose employers revoked badges before dismissal appeals, patients whose records were merged, students whose portals showed another person's history. Identity is not whatever the current database says. People must have routes to challenge the issuer. At 65, June retired. We visited Bellwether's museum. The North Gallery no longer displayed the codex. The empty case remained. The card reader exhibit had traveled nationally. Our gala badges were stored off-site. We stood beside the service elevator. The lift had been rebuilt with transparent inspection panels and external cable sensors. June pressed the call button. Want a ride? My body said no. I said yes. The doors opened. We entered. The car descended 3 floors. No drop.
No alarm.
At the lower archive, the doors opened normally. June exhaled. Still hate it? Yes. Me too. Healing did not require liking the thing. Only choice. We took the stairs back. At 70, Sarah died. Her family donated the phone that recorded Helena's cracked voice. Original holder declined. The recording existed. The phone belonged to her children. They kept it, then lost it during a house move.
No tragedy.
Evidence survived in verified copies. Objects can disappear without truth disappearing. That would have terrified young me. Older me understood redundancy. The Bellwether inquiry did not stop with my duplicate badge. Investigators ordered a full audit of every credential issued during the previous 10 years. The Academy had described its system as secure because chips could not be copied by outsiders. No one had asked how often insiders created additional genuine chips under existing identities. The number was 143. Most duplicates had innocent explanations. Lost badges, broken clips, forgotten credentials replaced before a field trip. Yet 38 remained active after the originals were found. 12 belonged to scholarship students. 7 were used in restricted zones after those students had gone home. 4 appeared in donor suites during financial meetings. 2 opened the health record office. The school had normalized duplicate identity as administrative convenience. If a visiting trustee forgot his badge, advancement printed another. If a donor wanted private access without appearing in the guest log, Helena issued a staff-level credential under a volunteer's name. If an executive needed to enter the archive without drawing attention, the system borrowed an identity whose presence seemed ordinary. Scholarship students made ideal covers because we worked everywhere and belonged nowhere. We carried boxes into galleries, escorted donors, sorted archives, and filled empty seats for photographs. A badge log showing my name near the North Gallery looked plausible. No one expected me to have enough status to challenge the record. The audit called the practice identity delegation. I called it wearing someone else's life. The first former student we contacted was Ava Meyer. Her badge entered the board dining room on 11 evenings during her final year. She had never attended a board dinner. At the time, the academy accused her of stealing wine after a bottle disappeared from a donor cabinet. She lost her prefect position and university reference. A duplicate credential had placed her in the room. The bottle itself was irrelevant. The accusation taught her not to question why her badge appeared elsewhere. When investigators showed her the issuance history, Ava stared at the page. I kept thinking I sleepwalked. She had spent 14 years doubting her own memory because the database looked more certain. Bellwether corrected her record. The university she once wanted no longer mattered. She was 32 and managed a bakery. The correction could not restore the reference or the choices that followed. "What do I do with this?" she asked. "Whatever you want." "Can I make them publish it?" "Yes." "Can I keep it private?" "Yes." She chose both in different forms. The academy published a general correction. Her detailed file remained sealed. Repair did not require turning every harmed person into a public lesson. Another former student, Talia Ross, learned her duplicate badge had entered the infirmary record room. Soon afterward, a donor withdrew a scholarship after learning about her pregnancy. Talia had told only the school nurse. The badge history did not prove who read the file. It proved someone used her identity to enter the room while she sat in mathematics class. The academy had later said she probably disclosed the pregnancy herself and forgot. Again, the record converted intrusion into self-doubt.
Talia sued.
The case established that institutions could not rely on their own access logs as proof against a person when they controlled credential issuance. The issuer had to produce the full credential family: original, replacement, duplicate, activation, deactivation, and administrator action. A name in a log no longer meant one badge. That technical change altered legal reasoning. Before Bellwether, courts asked, did Mara's credential enter? After Bellwether, they asked, which credential instance entered, who issued it, and who possessed it. Identity became a chain of custody. The badge audit also exposed color hierarchy. Blue lanyards marked scholarship workers. Silver marked staff. Gold marked donors. Black marked board access. The colors were supposedly practical. In practice, they taught security whom to question. A blue badge near a restricted gallery looked suspicious. A black badge passed without conversation. Helena used my blue identity because suspicion would attach naturally once the theft became public. During the gala, she offered me a blank gold lanyard without a badge. A visual upgrade paired with digital disappearance. She understood the social system as well as the technical one. Bellwether initially proposed changing all lanyards to the same color. Students objected. Uniform appearance did not remove unequal access. It merely concealed it. We redesigned the badges so visible color indicated function only during active tasks, not social category. Scholarship status disappeared. Donor status no longer granted access. Board members used the same clearly defined zones as everyone else. More importantly, security training changed. Question the access event, not the status of the person. A donor at an archive door deserved the same verification as a student. The first month, 3 trustees complained about being stopped.
Good.
Friction had moved upward. The duplicate badge vendor offered a software patch called Original Priority Mode. If 2 credentials shared one identity, the older chip would automatically override the newer. It sounded reasonable. I rejected it. What if the original is stolen and the replacement belongs to the person? The engineers paused. Age did not determine rightful possession. Continuity helped, but context mattered. We created collision review instead. Both credentials paused. The holder received notice. Security compared issuance, location, biometric consent, and reported loss. No automatic winner. Machines could identify conflict. They should not silently decide personhood. The vendor disliked the delay. Hospitals worried staff might be locked out during emergencies. We developed emergency continuity modes with immediate access and later review. Every override left a visible record. Again, no single rule. Context. Urgency documented. Power reviewable. The first hospital to use the system uncovered a serious abuse. A senior surgeon had created duplicates under junior doctors' names to access controlled medication after hours. When 2 badges collided, the old software would have trusted the surgeon's newer administrator-issued chip. The revised system paused both and alerted pharmacy security. No patient died. No junior doctor was accused. A routine collision prevented a manufactured future. I thought about the card reader in Helena's hand. A small red refusal at 8:41 p.m. had become a design principle across institutions. Not because red meant guilty. Because red meant the record could not honestly continue as though only one identity existed. Original holder grew quickly. Too quickly. We received cases involving badges, digital accounts, passports, student portals, and patient records. People used the phrase identity collision for everything. Some cases were true duplication. Others were mistaken names, family account sharing, clerical errors, or deliberate impersonation by users. We had to remain precise. A woman claimed her former employer used a duplicate badge to frame her for theft. Audit logs showed no duplicate. Video showed her lending the badge to her brother, who entered the warehouse. She had lied because she feared losing custody of her child after dismissal. Her fear mattered. The evidence still contradicted her claim. We helped her obtain legal support, but did not accuse the employer of credential fraud. Advocacy could not mean converting every painful account into the pattern we knew best. At 39, I failed that rule publicly. A university cleaner named Rosa Delgado was accused of entering a dean's office. Her badge log showed access, while she said she was on another floor. I assumed duplication and told a reporter the case resembled bellwether. 2 days later, a camera showed Rosa had entered the office to clean after her supervisor changed the rota verbally. She had forgotten because the shift was chaotic. No theft occurred. The dean had misplaced the document himself. My premature comparison turned a routine dispute into a national story. I apologized to Rosa. She folded her arms. You made me famous for being accused. I know. Your apology will make you look honest. That may happen. What do I get? The question corrected me more than any ethics lecture. We paid for legal advice, requested removal of stories using her name, and published the full correction through every channel that carried the accusation. Original holder adopted a rule. No public pattern comparison before underlying access instances were reviewed. Memory of harm could accelerate investigation. It could not accelerate public blame. Rosa later joined our board. Not because she forgave me quickly. Because she wanted someone present who distrusted our certainty. Good institutions need people who remember their failures. The biometric metadata in the duplicate badge created a different controversy. Celia's gait and hand temperature patterns helped identify her. Investigators praised the feature. Civil rights groups asked why a museum badge collected gait at all. Bellwether said it prevented credential sharing. No student had been told. The system continuously measured movement and body data during gala work. My badge held pulse estimates, stride rhythm, proximity, and dwell times. It protected me that night. It also recorded my body, without meaningful consent. Both facts remained. The Academy wanted to keep the feature because it caught a thief. We required disclosure and limits. High-security environments could use narrow biometric verification where necessary. Ordinary student volunteering did not justify continuous gate tracking. Bellwether removed it from general badges. Restricted archive staff chose between several verification methods. No one had to surrender the same bodily data. The prosecution retained Celia's metadata because it already existed under warrant. Future students gained privacy because her identification exposed the collection. A tool can help in one case and still be wrong as a default. I repeated that sentence for years. People prefer moral categories for technology. Safe. Dangerous.
Good.
Bad. Systems are arrangements of purpose, power, and limits. The same sensor can clear an innocent person and normalize surveillance. Design determines which outcome becomes ordinary. June challenged me on biometrics more than anyone. You would have been convicted again without the gate data, she said. Maybe. So, why restrict it? Because every student should not be permanently measured in case one day it helps her. What if restrictions protect the next Celia? What if collection harms the next Mara? We argued through dinner. Neither won. The final policy allowed event-specific, disclosed, short retention biometrics only in truly restricted collections. Students could decline those roles without losing scholarships or references. Choice needed a real alternative.
June accepted that.
Mostly. Our friendship survived disagreement because the gala had taught us what happens when one person controls the final version. At 45, a refugee student named Lena Haddad contacted original holder. Her university portal merged her record with another woman sharing the same birth date and transliterated surname. The other Lena had a disciplinary finding. The university suspended both accounts while investigating. Our collision principles applied, though no badge existed. Pause both records. Preserve histories. Do not assume the older record is authentic. Let each person answer. The university separated them within days. Before reform, Lena might have carried the other student's finding for months. Digital identity systems often treat collision as corruption to be resolved by choosing one record. We argued for separation before selection. Two people can resemble one database entry without either being false. The case expanded original holder beyond access cards. Hospitals had merged patients. Credit agencies merged debts. Schools merged siblings. Prisons merged aliases. The wrong person inherited another life because software preferred one clean identity. Bellwether had created two credentials for one person. These systems created one record for two people. Opposite error. Same harm. Identity administration prioritized neatness over human complexity. We developed a principle. When records conflict, preserve both possibilities until the person affected can participate.
No silent Mary. No silent replacement. No silent deletion.
The principle entered national digital identity standards. At 50, the government proposed a universal identity wallet. Officials invited me to endorse it because the system would notify people whenever credentials were issued. That feature was good. The wallet also centralized health, tax, education, and travel records under one issuer. One master authority. I declined endorsement. Reporters called me hypocritical. You demanded complete credential families, one said. I demanded visibility, not central control. Isn't one system easier to audit? Yes. Then why oppose it? Because the auditor and issuer would be the same institution unless independent structure exists. Bellwether's problem was not lack of records. It was that the people creating duplicates also controlled the logs and statements. The government revised the proposal. Independent issuance receipts. User-held copies. Multiple verification providers. Courts required for certain merges. Public audit. Still imperfect. Better. Security professionals accused us of making identity cumbersome. Some friction belongs in power. The universal wallet launched without catastrophic failure. It also generated new disputes. People lost access after phones broke. Older users struggled. Domestic violence survivors needed hidden credentials. No design ends politics. We created exception routes. Human support. Paper recovery.
Opferline Profot.
The Lanyard badge remained a reminder that physical objects sometimes give people control digital systems remove. At 56, Bellwether asked alumni to return old badges for destruction. The chips used outdated encryption and could be exploited. I supported disabling them. I opposed destroying every physical badge. They were historical records for people whose identity had been misused. We separated function from object. Chips drilled or deactivated under witness. Objects returned to holders or archives. No active access. No forced surrender. Ava kept hers. Talia burned hers.
I deposited mina.
June turned hers into a bookmark. Sarah lost hers before anyone asked. Different endings. The duplicate badge entered evidence storage permanently. Helena's reader remained paired with it. The museum once displayed the red error screen through simulation. Visitors assumed the device still worked. It did not. The battery failed. A hidden computer recreated the message. We updated the label. Display simulation based on verified event log. Even museums can create misleading authenticity through presentation. An inert object glowing as though alive needed explanation. The small correction mattered to me.
No invisible replacement.
At 61, I received a letter from Celia Ward after her release. She had completed her sentence and worked restoring damaged family photographs for a community charity. She wrote, I spent my career deciding which surface counted as original. Conservation teaches that every object carries interventions. I used that truth to excuse my own. I told myself the codex was already altered, the trust already corrupt, your mother already gone. June only delayed. I kept treating each new harm as one more repair to a damaged object. People are not objects. They do not become available for intervention because someone harmed them first. I read the letter twice. She did not ask forgiveness. She asked whether the archive would accept her private notes about bellwether conservation practices. We reviewed them like any source. Some claims verified. Some contradicted records. Some remained uncertain. Her usefulness did not erase her crimes. Her crimes did not require rejecting accurate information. The notes helped identify 3 more objects with false provenance. One returned to its community of origin. Celia attended no ceremony. Appropriate. At 64, original holder investigated a school using student badges to measure friendship networks. Proximity data showed who spent time together. Administrators claimed the system identified isolated students. It also identified organizing groups, romantic relationships, and students visiting counselors.
No informed consent.
A well-intentioned safety feature became social surveillance. The school argued no human read individual data unless a risk score triggered. The algorithm still acted on it. We required deletion. The school replaced tracking with voluntary check-ins and staff support. Some isolation became harder to quantify. Students gained privacy. Not every unmeasured problem is neglected. Sometimes measurement changes the thing being measured. A lonely student may avoid help if the badge reports whom she meets. Bellwether taught us that visibility can protect. The proximity case taught us visibility can discipline. The question remained, visible to whom, for what purpose, and with what choice? I wrote those words on every policy review. At 68, June and I faced a personal collision. Her medical record briefly merged with another June Park during hospital admission. The other patient had a severe drug allergy. Doctors delayed treatment until identity was resolved. June laughed weakly from the bed. Your entire career has become annoying. The delay protected her from receiving uncertain medication, but it also prolonged pain. The hospital used the National Separation Protocol. 2 records preserved. Identity verified through multiple sources. No old record automatically won. Treatment resumed safely. June later wrote an article titled I Became the Duplicate. She described the humiliation of repeating her name while systems debated who she was. Identity review should pause dangerous action, she wrote, not pause care. Hospitals changed protocols. Basic stabilization continued during collision review. No one should become medically invisible because data conflicted. Again, a reform needed another layer. At 71, Bellwether discovered an original staff badge behind a wall during renovation.
Elena Queen.
Conservation assistant. My mother's. The chip no longer worked. The lanyard had faded from silver to gray. The badge log archive showed it had been deactivated 2 days before she was formally dismissed. Her access disappeared before she was told she no longer worked there. The board had removed her from the building's identity first, then from the professional story. I held the badge beside mine. Same surname, different colors, different eras. Both deactivated by people who needed our presence to stop registering. The museum wanted to display them together. I agreed only after her surviving colleagues were interviewed. My mother was not simply my prequel. She had her own work, her own mistakes. One colleague said she could be impatient and territorial with conservation notes. Another said she shared credit generously. Celia's early review described her as technically gifted and politically naive.
Complex.
Alive in records again. The display did not call her perfect. It called her present. Her badge label read, deactivated before notice of dismissal. Holder later challenged trust records hidden in the Solen Codex. Mine read, deactivation attempt failed while a second authorized credential used the holder's identity. Mother and daughter. 2 administrative removals. Different outcomes. Visitors often assumed my mother's badge inspired me to keep mine on. I had never seen it. Rebirth supplied memory. The badge supplied present evidence. History does not need neat symbolic causality to remain moving. At 74, I made my final major public error. A news outlet reported that a minister issued duplicate credentials to attend secret lobbying meetings. The evidence showed 2 active badges under his identity. I commented that the pattern required investigation. Reasonable. Hours later, security explained one badge belonged to his protective officer and displayed the minister's name externally to simplify emergency identification. An odd policy.
Documented.
No secret attendance. My comment had already spread. Critics said age had made me reckless. Perhaps. I corrected it immediately. Then used the incident to argue that credentials should display the actual holder, even when operational labels differ. The protective officer's badge should not represent another person. A harmless practice had created misleading records. The ministry changed it. My error still mattered. A wrong suspicion can produce a useful reform without becoming retroactively right. I wrote that in my last public essay. Accuracy includes the courage to preserve one's own corrections. At 77, original holder transferred leadership to a board mostly composed of people I had never met. They changed the logo, rewrote procedures, closed 2 programs I loved. The organization became less centered on badge cases and more focused on record collisions in healthcare and migration. I felt displaced. Then remembered the point. Original holders should not be controlled forever by original founders. I retained an advisory role with no veto. The new board improved language access and emergency support. My discomfort was not evidence of their error. Letting go of issuer power became my final institutional lesson. At 79, June and I visited the Elena Quinn archive, one last time together. The empty codex case reflected us. 2 old women.
No gold dresses.
No student badges. June touched the glass. Do you ever think about the version where I died? Every day. Still. Not every hour. She nodded. I used to feel guilty for living in your second life. It is your only life. To me, yes. We sat in the gallery until closing. A volunteer approached and said, "You don't have to leave immediately. I can extend your visitor access 10 minutes." She updated the system in front of us. Both of our temporary badges displayed the new expiry. No hidden extension.
No sailen tu override.
June smiled. Very impressive. The volunteer had no idea why.
We returned the badges ourselves.
The final national review inspired by Bellwether was called the Credential Amnesty. For decades, institutions had punished people for badge anomalies without preserving issuance histories. Workers dismissed for impossible access. Students accused of entering rooms while absent. Nurses blamed for medication cabinets opened under their names. Most cases were old. Logs incomplete. Cameras gone. Administrators retired. The government resisted reopening them. Not every anomaly indicates duplication, officials said. True. Not every old decision can be reconstructed. Also true. Neither justified refusing review entirely. The amnesty created a narrower process. A person could request the full credential history associated with her identity. If the issuer could not show that only one active instance existed at the relevant time, badge evidence alone could no longer sustain the old finding. The rule did not declare everyone innocent. It removed false certainty. More than 4,000 people applied. Most cases did not change. Some did. A laboratory assistant cleared after 12 years. A hotel worker rehired. A student disciplinary record amended before a professional license application. A paramedic's family received a posthumous correction after he died, believing no one accepted that his badge had been copied. Each case looked small beside Bellwether. To the person, it was the whole record. The amnesty also revealed institutions that had never tracked replacements at all. They printed new badges and reused names, without unique instance numbers. The access logs could not distinguish anything. Those institutions had once described their systems as objective. Objectivity, without traceability, was branding. We required every credential instance to carry its own identity beneath the human identity. Mara Quinn remained the holder. Badge MQ0047 was one object. Badge MQ0048 another. No log could collapse them silently. That simple numbering practice prevented future courts from treating a name as a unique physical key. One prison system objected because officers routinely shared replacement credentials during emergencies. The audit found emergencies occurred almost every week. Convenience had become exception. They issued proper temporary credentials with actual holder names. Use became visible. Complaints about untraceable cell entries fell. Again, reform did not depend on assuming every officer was malicious. It removed the shelter where malicious action and ordinary shortcuts looked identical. At the same time, lanyards themselves created accessibility problems. Breakaway clips caught in wheelchairs. Neck straps caused sensory distress. Religious garments made visible placement difficult. People who could not wear standard badges were often treated as suspicious. Bellwether's famous instruction, "Keep it visible," risked becoming another rigid rule. Original holder worked with disabled users to create alternatives. Wrist cards, magnetic clips, pocket displays, digital tokens with visible confirmation, escort options. The principle was continuity and notice, not one object around one neck. A student named Mariam Khan refused to pin a badge through a delicate headscarf. A conference officer denied entry because the alternative clip was not standard. She challenged it under the new rules. The conference apologized and changed training. The badge system had been designed for one body, one outfit, one assumption about visibility. Safety should adapt without making the person appear deceptive. I spoke at the revised training. Do not turn my story into a rule that everyone must wear a lanyard exactly as I did. I kept mine because someone wanted my identity absent. Another person may need a different way to remain present. That sentence mattered to me. Stories become dangerous when institutions copy the surface instead of the principle. The surface was a gold lanyard. The principle was informed control over one's credential. The review later examined funerals and posthumous access. When employees died, organizations often deactivated badges immediately and deleted associated profiles. Families lost access to work products, photographs, and personal effects. Investigations lost context. My mother's badge had nearly vanished that way. We created posthumous preservation rules. Deactivate access for security. Preserve issuance and activity records for defined periods. Separate personal materials. Notify estates where appropriate. No one should remain digitally active after death. No one should disappear administratively before the record is complete. The first case under the rule involved a hospital researcher who died during an experiment. Her badge activity showed she had left the laboratory 20 minutes before the incident, contradicting a statement that she caused it. Because the profile remained preserved after deactivation, her family cleared her name. A disabled credential still spoke through its history. The case affected how I planned my own death. I wrote instructions for my badges, accounts, and archives. Deactivate active access immediately. Preserve verified logs. Do not publish private location history without review. Do not let a museum simulate functions without labels. Do not call the duplicate fake without explaining it was physically genuine and wrongfully issued. Language remained important to the end. My solicitor laughed while reading the document. You have more instructions for a lanyard than for your funeral. The lanyard has caused more litigation. My funeral instructions were simple. No badges for family. No access controlled memorial. Public service. Open doors. The archive reception afterward could use visitor credentials because collections required them. People would receive notice. Even grief could respect boundaries. 1 year before I died, a small package arrived from Bellwether. Inside lay a new museum access card bearing my name.
No Lanyard. No chip.
A ceremonial object. The letter said the archive wished to recognize me as permanent original holder. I disliked the title immediately. Permanent sounded like ownership after death. Original sounded like no one could continue the work. I returned the card. My reply read, "Please issue credentials only when access is needed. Honor the records, not an eternal account under my name." The archive accepted the correction. They created a rotating fellowship instead. Each fellow researched disputed provenance or identity records. No one inherited my badge. They inherited resources, authority, and review. Better. The first fellow was a young conservator from the community that received the Solen Codex back. She studied objects Bellwether still held from the same region. Her report led to 2 more returns. The story continued beyond my identity. That was the point. A life should not become another master credential people wave forever to enter arguments she never reviewed. Near the end, June asked whether rebirth made me the original holder of 2 lives.
No.
Why not? The first Mara is me. Then which is original? Neither. Both. She smiled. Your organization would hate that answer. Our organization learned from complicated cases. The database of my own memory contained a collision no machine could resolve. 1 body. 2 histories. 1 unverifiable. 1 public. I stopped trying to rank them. The first life warned me. The second gave me choices. Both shaped the person returning a visitor badge at the end of the day. That was enough. The card reader received its own final examination before entering the museum. For years, headlines described it as failed. Her card reader failed. The forensic report said something more precise. The device functioned as designed. It rejected a deactivation request because an independently issued credential using the same holder identity remained active in a protected zone. The operator attempted cancellation 3 times. The reader preserved each attempt. The machine had not failed. Helena's plan had. I asked the museum to keep the popular phrase in the title, but place the technical finding beside it. Visitors deserved the hook and the correction. A red screen can mean broken hardware. It can also mean a safeguard refusing an unsafe instruction. Without context, people often assume failure belongs to the device that stops them. The reader delayed a donor portrait, locked a gallery, and disrupted a gala worth millions. To Helena, every correct response looked like malfunction because the system no longer obeyed her. That insight shaped one last safety standard. When a protected system refuses an administrator, incident reports must record the reason before labeling the event a fault. Too many safeguards are disabled after doing exactly what they were designed to do. A hospital once removed a collision alert because it slowed medication access. Months later, duplicate staff credentials concealed theft. An examination board disabled replacement notifications because students complained about emails. A cloned candidate record then remained active through an entire admissions cycle. Friction was repeatedly mistaken for defect. The standard required teams to ask, what condition triggered the refusal? Was the condition real? Who benefits if the refusal is removed? Can emergency access remain possible without silencing the warning? The reader's red screen became a teaching example, not because every refusal was correct, but because every refusal deserved interpretation before override. At the museum, the device sat between my badge and the duplicate. Its screen remained dark. A small plaque carried the final forensic conclusion. The reader did not choose which woman was real. It recognized that the system could not honestly pretend there was only one credential. That was all I had ever needed from it. Not judgment. A pause. Enough time for Sarah to record, to Moss to inspect, June to be found, and the original holder to remain standing where the official story could still see her. The authentic badge eventually stopped transmitting. Its battery chemistry failed. Conservators removed the cell. The lanyard became inert. Still mine. Still evidence. Technical function ended. Historical function remained. The duplicate badge's chip corroded earlier because Helena's transmitter adhesive trapped moisture. The clone failed first. People called that symbolic. I smiled and explained corrosion. At 80, Bellwether asked me to write the final label for the empty codex case. I wrote, "This case is empty because ownership was reviewed. Absence here does not mean loss. It means the record became complete enough to return what never belonged here." The board approved without revision. That mattered.
No hidden replacement. No gala deadline.
No demand to remove my name. The final time I wore a lanyard badge was at a small community archive. The volunteer handed me one marked visitor. No access level.
No biography.
No history. "Please keep it visible," she said. I laughed. Gladly. The badge opened no secure door. It only told staff I belonged in public rooms. At lunch, the plastic clip broke. The badge fell. A volunteer offered a replacement. She deactivated the old one in front of me. The system sent a notice to my phone. Replacement issued. Original holder informed. A routine process shaped by decades of reform. No red alarm.
No Kelichen.
No fear. I wore the new badge until I left. Then I returned it myself. The first time, I removed my lanyard because Helena told me the photograph mattered more than the record. My identity entered the gallery without me. June died. The codex appeared beneath my bed. Every system pointed toward the person whose original credential had been erased. The second time, I kept my lanyard badge on. She told me to remove it fast. Her card reader failed. The duplicate surfaced. The lift remained empty. June lived. The microfilm survived. My mother's name returned. But the ending was not that one badge proved I was innocent. The ending was that no authority could silently create another version of a person and expect the system to treat the copy as more real than the human being standing in front of it. Replacement required notice. Collisions created review. Issuer power left logs. Original holders could answer. And whenever a machine found two identities where only one life should have been, it stopped long enough for someone to ask not which badge looked official, but who had been present all along.